A lot of people have been asking me how they can glow up both physically and academically this summer before school starts and put some of the free time they have to productive use. And this video will go over exactly how you do that. If you're not aware of who I am, I went from getting pretty bad grades in my GCSEs. I used to get like 3s and 4s to getting pretty much all 9s, all A stars and A's at A level, and now I go to UCL, which is one of the best universities in the world. And also, specifically for like physical glow up, I want you to just go to my YouTube channel and go to like sort the videos by oldest, and you can see what my physique looked there, what I look like there in that video, and how far I've come in regards to health. And if you just follow the steps laid out within this video, you can achieve the same transformation and glow up before school starts. So the first thing you need to understand before we get into exactly what you need to do is you need to have a Polaris. I call this Polaris identification. Now, if you're unfamiliar to what Polaris actually means, think of like the Polaris star. So when sailors back in the olden days used to sail off to new lands and stuff, and if they ever got lost, they would use the North Star as their Polaris star. It just means like big goal, I think. I'm not sure, it's like Latin for something, but Polaris is just like the North Star. And the reason we need a Polaris is because all of our decisions will be in reference to this big goal we have set out for ourselves. So in the same way that if you're like a sailor, right, and then you get lost somewhere, you look at the North Star and then you can figure out where to go based on the North Star. You can figure out whether to go south, because if you know the North Star, you know where the South Star is, you know where the East Star, you know where the South direction is, you know where East is, you know where West is, based off of the North Star. And it's the same thing with our goal. If we have a defined goal, then you can make all of your decisions based off of that goal. Now, what a lot of people have is when they try and get better grades and when they try and get in better shape, they don't actually have a tangible goal they want to achieve, and therefore all of your decision making is kind of compromised because you don't have an actual goal you're trying to move towards. Like most people, they just go to the gym and they're like, oh, like I just want to like get in shape, but that's not like a specific enough goal. You know, you can't just say, oh, I just want to like get better grades this year, because imagine like you're kind of lost or you're feeling unmotivated. You don't actually have a goal you're trying to strive towards that's like in your mind, crystal clear in your mind, wherein you can say, okay, this is exactly what I want. And it's really hard for you to reverse engineer your goal if you don't actually have a goal, like a proper goal. So in this segment of the video, I'm going to be teaching you how to set a goal. So a goal needs to have a couple of things. It needs to be tangible, so it needs to be specific. Tangible basically means like it needs to be real, like it needs to be specific. You can't just say, yeah, I just want to like get in shape, because it's not a specific enough goal. And it needs to be specific. And your goal needs to have a time frame. Now, this doesn't have to be like on the day. The reason I said vague is because of something called the Stockdale paradox that I'll come to later on in the video. But if your goal isn't tangible, and if it's not, if it doesn't have a time frame, you don't have a goal. You just have like this weird state in your mind that you're trying to achieve. But if you don't actually have a specific goal in a relative time frame, it's not a goal. I have a worksheet that actually walks you through exactly how you set a really, really good tangible goal and how you reverse engineer that in my free revision community. Down below. It's completely free. We have resources on all GCSEs, A levels, revision planners completely for free, and we have a pretty big community of, I think, around 600 people now. So you can get that worksheet on how to set goals completely for free if you join the revision community down below, and that worksheet will walk you through exactly how you set a goal and reverse engineer that. But the summarized version of that is it just has to be specific and it has to have a time frame. So for example, if you're doing like, I don't know, like A-level physics or something, like your goal for the summer should be achieve like consistent A's in like before school starts, right? In paper 2 before term starts. That's an example for like that is, for example, a a goal that fits those two categories. So now anytime that you're like feeling unmotivated, you have this Polaris, you have this like goal set out where you can be like, you can check in reference to. So you can look at that goal and be like, okay, how far away am I from that specific goal of achieving A's in paper 2 by the summer? So it's really, really important to set yourself a Polaris, both for your academics and also your physicality. When I started my cutting phase at the gym, when I started like going to the gym specifically, I kind of went there with no real plan. But it was only recently, like you can scroll, because I've been uploading to YouTube pretty consistently, you can see my my physical transformation as well, based on like my face and like how I go to the gym and stuff. But if you just scroll to like 4 months ago, you can see how my face has changed as well. And it was at that time that I was like, okay, I need to set like a specific goal that I need to pursue. So my fitness goal was to cut to 10% body fat. So if you're unaware, like I just wanted to like go on a massive losing fat phase so I can really shred down and cut to this specific body fat number, and I wanted to do it within 4 months, which I achieved, right? Because like one of the reasons I achieved the goal was because I actually set out the goal, which most people don't. I set out like a proper goal that I pursued, and therefore I went ahead and achieved that. So so your fitness goal has to be something, or like your like physicality based glow up goal has to be very specific in how you set it, and also your academic goal has to be very specific. And once you have these Polarises, I'm not sure if that's a plural for Polaris, but once you have these two things, then we can go on to the next step, which is planning. So now I'm going to teach you a very specific way that works to plan your goals and actually achieve them. This is something that not a lot of people talk about. Not a lot of people talk about planning your goals and actually going ahead and achieving them. So I'm going to be teaching you a more specific and tangible way that actually works. And this method is called asymmetric leverage. Okay, remember these two words. In order to understand how we plan for a goal and how we achieve a goal, you need to first understand that you, imagine this is you, have a fixed amount of energy. So this is energy, E. And imagine this ball is your energy, right? And it's very fixed. You don't have an unlimited amount of energy, right? If you sleep well and if you eat very clean and if you don't scroll on social media that much, your energy levels can increase by a bit. But everyone relatively has the same amount of energy, okay? Now, every time you focus in on a specific task or a specific piece of work, imagine this energy you have for the day or for the month is focused in on like one goal like that, right? You have to imagine it like, imagine that there's a massive dam and there's a little pathway for the dam, for the water in the dam to go through. Like the force of the water is obviously going to be a lot, right? This represents focus, right? So the reason we only have 2 goals is because this allows us to use this energy and really focus in on 2 main things. If you had like a bunch of random other goals, like learning a language, like doing this thing, doing that thing, going and revising for that test, these the size of these arrows actually decrease. So you get kind of nowhere. It's like the common quote of if you try chase 2 rabbits, you catch none. So if you have like many goals, this energy is now really being spread thin and you don't really make any progress in any of the goals. That's why a lot of people that try and set, you may recognize this, like a lot of older people as well, try and set like fitness-based goals, often have a lot of other things going on in their life, and therefore they can't make any tangible progress in any of the goals because they have too many goals, right? You're spreading this energy amount in too many places and you can't make any progress like that. Now, that's the reason we have 2 main goals, which is an academic goal and a fitness related goal. Fitness. Now, asymmetric leverage essentially means, to understand this thing, you need to understand what asymmetries are. So in life and just in general, there are certain things, certain activities that give you a higher amount of output for a specific input. And a good example is, imagine we're in a conversation, right? There are certain words that would annoy you and obviously insult you and offend you more than other words. If someone comes up to you and starts swearing, obviously that's going to make you more angry and insult you more than any other words. This exists in anything, honestly. Like if you there are certain foods that are more calorie dense that if you eat more of them, you're going to get a bigger output for other foods that are less calorie dense. Like if you eat, I don't know, whole chicken, that's going to fill you up more than eating like watermelon, right? Similarly, this exists in studying and also the gym. There are certain things that if you put all of this, if you focus in on these things, are going to get you a massive output compared to any other activity to achieve that goal. You have to understand, specifically for like studying and stuff like reading the textbook or watching videos. These things do help. Like these things actually do help you achieve better grades. However, you have to think about it like a spectrum. So that this is effective, ineffective. And the way we can determine whether or not like a revision activity, this is specifically for studying, but the way you can determine whether or not a revision activity is effective or ineffective is because of our previous section, which is our Polaris. Like if you have your goal of achieving something, then you can reverse engineer and see, is the action that I'm doing actually giving me enough output towards that goal compared to another action. So obviously, like rereading the textbook is probably ineffective, and watching videos also ineffective. Now our plan should be or like asymmetric leverage is essentially like figuring out what asymmetries exists for our specific goals and only focusing on them. So not only are we having like only two goals, so we're focusing all of our energy on two main things, we're also doing tasks that give us the highest output in those two things. So for the gym, the asymmetries that you like, everything else is pretty much redundant compared to these three things. If you just focus in on these three asymmetries, you'll blow everyone else out the water, and you're going to reach your goals so much faster than everyone else. And these three things are lifting, weights, right? It's cleaning up diet, and it's eating correct calories. Now you can go and like watch videos on like going to the gym. You can go and like buy workout gloves and stuff, but all of that pales in comparison compared to these three things. If you just focus in on these three things, this gives you a massive asymmetry. This is a massive asymmetry in pushing you towards your goal. You're going to reach your goal of whatever goal you have, fitness related, whatever your Polaris is, so much faster than if you concentrate on anything else. Now this is kind of the same with revision, and this is why I pitched my revision community, because it has all of like the flashcards you need, like all of the revision planners you need, specifically targeting these asymmetries in order to achieve your goal. But it's the same thing for revision. Now this is very subject dependent. So like I can tell you for example maths, right? By the way, if you're interested in getting an A-star with maths specifically with my help, one-to-one support, there's another link in the description. Go and click that. But specifically for maths, a massive asymmetry is doing past paper questions. So that's a massive asymmetry specifically for maths. But I know specific, like for stuff like politics, I'm not too sure what the asymmetry is for that. Like you have to go and ask a politics student for that advice. Similarly with biology, I know that an asymmetry is not knowing or memorizing the content enough. So obviously you have to focus in on that. Again, my revision community has a bunch of other subjects, but you have to really sit down and think about what tasks and what actions actually push you towards your goal, more so than other tasks. And really think about this, because I wasted a lot of time doing ineffective revision methods, like rereading textbooks, like binge watching YouTube videos for my specific subject, where when going back, I could have saved so much time if I just concentrated on doing the asymmetric activities for the goals I had. So just plan properly. I know the worksheet I have specifically for this video where you reverse engineer your goal also has some stuff about asymmetries for whatever subject you have in the community down below. But essentially just sit down and really plan out your goal using asymmetric leverage. The third step is something that everyone pretty much forgets about or doesn't talk about, which is something called the Stockdale paradox. And chances are you've probably never heard of this before, so I'm going to explain this to you. And when you properly understand this, it's gonna change the way you see goal setting in general. But Stockdale paradox. Essentially, a long time ago, not that long ago, like 100 years ago ish, there was this man here called James Stockdale. Right? Good old James Stockdale. And he was a plane driver, i.e. he was a pilot. And he wasn't just any pilot. He was a pilot for the US Army in World War II. So let me try to draw a plane. Boom, 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 boom. Apologies for the bad drawing. I got like a 2 in art in like year 9. This is before I locked in though. So this is James Stockdale driving the plane. Boom, boom, boom. Probably not as happy because obviously they were in a war in World War II, and he was flying over Vietnam, right? And Vietnam were enemies of the US at the time. Well, I think this was a bit after the World War II. I think this was when the US and Vietnam had like a conflict going on. But he was flying over Vietnam, and his plane got shot down by the Vietnamese army, right? So, boom, got shot down by the Vietnamese army, and the story goes that he ejected out of his seat, and like he had like the parachute coming out, and the plane crashed in the ground. And as he parachuted down, he saw like a swarm of soldiers from the opposing army just all waiting for him to land down. And when he lands down, he's obviously going to get taken as a hostage, as a prisoner of war by the army, right? And there was a very famous quote he said when he's parachuting down. He said something like, "I'm leaving the world of technology behind to the world of Epictetus." So when he landed down, boom, he got taken by the Vietnamese army as hostage, and now he was a prisoner of war, right? And when you're a prisoner of war, obviously it's really, really bad conditions. You're pretty much starving. You see death everywhere. It's really, really hard in that prison, honestly. It's worse than a prison because it's the opposing army. And he was there with a bunch of other American soldiers. And the general consensus in the camp was, the war is just going to be over by Christmas. So it was like, I'm not sure what month it was, but obviously Christmas was a few months away. So everyone was like, it's like the war's going to be over by Christmas. Like they're going to pick up, like the US Army's going to come pick us up. We're going to go home back to our families. But the war didn't end in Christmas. And like everyone else was like, but it's just going to end in like another 3 months. It didn't end after 3 months. So what he observed was the most optimistic people there actually died first. Because they were like, the help is coming in Christmas. The help didn't come by Christmas. And they were like, no, like help is coming in like 3 more months. After like the US Army didn't come to save them after three months, they gave up hope. And when you give up hope, your body like kind of dies. So they literally died, and their bodies gave up after like they were too optimistic. And this is where the famous quote, "Optimists die first," come from. It comes from James Stockdale. It comes from him seeing that people who are overly optimistic at first actually died and had this hope taken out of them, and just because they were too optimistic about the goal. And you may be wondering why I told you such a morbid story when it comes to goal setting and wanting to get in better shape and getting better grades. But this has everything to do with goals. Now, a lot of people, what they do is when you set a goal, when they set like a fitness goal, or they set like a academic goal, is they give themselves such a tiny time frame to achieve it that it almost becomes impossible for them to actually do enough work in order to achieve that goal. So for example, I remember I used to be friends with this one guy, in my old grammar school, and he like when he joined year 12, he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna finish all of my 4 subjects content and get an A star in all of them within 2 months. And obviously that didn't happen, right? But it highlights a big flaw that a lot of people have, which is they just give themselves such compressed time frames for them to achieve the goal. And what you need to do is whenever you have a goal, whenever you have any goal that you're working towards, you just need to work as hard as possible. With no time frame. That should be your goal. Like, you need to almost completely take away the time frame aspect from your goal. And I know I am kind of contradict myself from the first tip, wherein I said you need to give yourself a vague time frame, which is true. Like, you need to give yourself a vague-ish time frame, but you can't be too specific. Like, so if you haven't, you can only give yourself like a defined time frame if like you've done it before or you've helped other people do it. So if you're starting A-level maths for the first time, or if you're starting A-levels for the first time, and you give yourself 2 months to achieve all A stars, obviously that's not going to happen. You just need to learn to work as hard as possible without the time frame attached, because this is a bit deep, but subconsciously your body doesn't want you to achieve that goal. The reason why we're all drawn to like giving ourselves such short time frames for our goals is because subconsciously there's a part of us that wants us to fail, and like deep down, like a part of us wants us to fail, and by giving ourselves such a short time frame to achieve something, they know that by the end of that time we're not going to achieve the goal, and that's going to make us give up the goal altogether, because like a part of us doesn't want us to change. All right, so when you now have this goal, and when you have this plan of doing the asymmetric activities, and you have this defined goal, you just need to take away the time frame from it and just work as hard as possible every day towards that goal. So this means that if you're trying to get an A in paper 2 physics, or if you're trying to get a certain grade or something, you need to work as hard as possible doing the specific asymmetric activities towards that goal. And then just if you take away the time frame from it, like the only way you can not achieve the goal is by quitting. And obviously, like, sure, if you have an exam coming up, you do have a time frame, but setting like overly small or like overly constricted goals or time frames for yourself is going to only harm you going forward. This is something that I've seen a lot of students struggle with. Genuinely, like, really take this tip to heart, because I see so many people that are just like overpacking their calendar and overpacking the amount of work they can do per day, when in reality, if you just have a sustainable amount of revision you do per day, and if you have like a pretty sustainable time frame to achieve the goal, you'll achieve it. It's a very high likelihood of you actually achieving it. But it's when you like want to suddenly go and revise 15 hours a day and try to cover all of A-level physics within a weekend that you're like kind of cutting yourself short subconsciously by setting such a constricted goal. And I want to end on this, but like, you can't tell the universe, you can't tell like God what causes are going to get your goal. Like, you don't know, you can't see the underlying causes of what you do in reference to your goal. So you don't know when you're solving an A-level paper, or when you're doing a past paper, you don't know what questions are gonna like subconsciously change the way you think in helping you get a better grade in the actual exam. Like, you don't know that, you can't see that, and therefore it's just better if you just work as hard as possible with the correct plan, with the correct goal, without a time frame, in order for you to achieve whatever goal you have. So hopefully this video has helped a lot. Again, I have a free revision community down below. I know I've plugged it so many times in this YouTube video, but I genuinely think it is useful. Hopefully if you now go and do these 3 steps, you'll go achieve whatever goal you have, whether this is physical or grades wise, and you can come back to this video or my community and tell me all about it. I upload to this YouTube channel 3 times a week, and I will see you in the next video. Subscribe and hit the like button as well. Bye bye.